Greetings everyone, my name is Cam, and I'm here to give you another 8th edition battle report, but with a little bit of a caveat. My opponent is going to be playing an 8th edition Lizardmen force, and I'm going to be playing a 6th edition Vampire Count force. Each of us are going to be bringing around 1,000 points, playing on a 48 by 48 board. And you might be asking yourself, Cam, why are you playing a 6th edition army and a 8th edition game? Well, quite used to it being a Bretonian player, but aside from that, the 6th edition Vampire Count book is just pure awesome. It has so many just options and creative flair things to it that just make it such an attractive option to play. And we're also going to be playing with a special rule for our little battle scenario here, where any of the Lizardmen that die during the battle due to being infected with an undead plague will turn into a zombie on the roll of a 5+. So that'll help compensate a little bit for playing a 6th edition rulebook without just throwing the game entirely in one side's direction. I think it's a fun little compensation. It's actually my opponent's idea right before we started the game, and I was all for it. The more zombies, the better. Then going over my list, I've got one unit of 20 zombies, another unit of 10 zombies. We've got 10 Graveguard, 10 ghouls, a unit of 6 Black Knights, and a Necromancer. The Necromancer is level 2, and the army is led by a Vampire Count that is part of the Necrarch bloodline, so technically a level 3, but only a level 2 in reality. So you get like +1 to your casting attempts, that's why I say level 3. And then the last thing I actually forgot about was a Banshee as well. That's my entire list. The newly assembled army. Always love Vampire Counts, always love the creative potential with them, and just wanted to get it built up and on the table and have some fun with it. And now to go over my opponent's list, we are looking at a massive infantry list here. We've got 15 block of Saurus, a 20 block of Saurus, a 10 block of Saurus, and then 3 units of 10 Skink Skirmishers with blowpipes, and a Stegodon. The army is led by a Sarscar veteran. I don't have the list in front of me. I believe he had a magic sword and a nice piece of armor that brought him to like a 2-up save or something like that. Maybe an amulet for a 5-up ward. He was pretty kitted out for melee. But no magic, which I found really surprising. My opponent kind of said this is meant to be a bit more of a fun list, and I can definitely see that. So fair to say, both of us are kind of bringing unoptimized, not tournament efficient lists here, but you know what? I think that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I'm playing a 6th edition list in an 8th edition game here, and my opponent doesn't have any magic. To be honest, I think it's going to balance out, and we're going to get a pretty good battle here. Although I will say, having played against Lizardmen for many, many years, I am quite familiar with the combat capability of Saurus warriors, especially when his primary threat is a bunch of zombies. So going over deployment here, we both basically have a straight battle line facing each other. My opponent put the right side a little bit more heavy with Skinks, but to compensate for that, he has the Stegodon on that side. And then the left side's a little bit more heavy on Saurus, since he's got his 2 big blocks and then 1 block of Skink on that side. The chapel in the middle will kind of divide the battlefield into 2 separate halves over the course of the game. At least you'll see as it unfolds. On the opposite side, my undead are basically kind of matching him to some extent. I have my big block of zombies and Necromancer facing off against the big SARS block side. They're going to be there just to kind of stall up. All of my heavy hitters are on his Stegodon, Skink, and light Saurus side. So his right side of the board. I'm hoping that I can blitz up there. Oh, also I have the ghouls and the Banshee over there as well. But I'm hoping that I can blitz up there, kill as much of his weaker units as possible, maybe get lucky, have the Black Knights run down that Stegodon, and yeah, flank over, use my stallers to hold up the other side as long as possible. Everything should go well. So I get the first turn, and I decide to do exactly that. I move everyone up, planning on putting a lot of pressure on my left side, his right side of the board. And I will say, in hindsight, I think that this was probably my very first mistake, right on the very first turn, my first action. I should have been a little bit slower moving up here. Playing undead and him not having major range, especially no magic, I should have been summoning as many zombies as possible, trying to build up my numbers for the battle that was going to be happening in the later stages. But I saw this side as such a exploitable area that I figured it was worth the advance. Then, as I was kind of saying, this chapel is already beginning to unfold as a divider here. My big block and the necromancer are going to move up, use that to kind of protect their left side, and hopefully just stall for as long as possible. I didn't even put the necromancer inside that unit, so that shows how much little faith I have in them. And yep, on the left side here, you can see we've got our solid hitters, the Grave Guard, the Ghouls, and the chat unit of 10 zombies in the front there to slow down anyone that we don't want to face a frontal charge from. Banshee is just sprinting up as fast as possible. He has no magic on this flank, so I know I pretty much got free reign with that as long as I don't get stuck in a nasty combat res. During the magic phase, I summon a group of zombies that hopefully will serve the same purpose as the other one. Will dissuade any nasty charges on my hard-hitting units, soak it up, and then they can come in and charge when needed. And we're going to mimic that action on the other side with my Necromancer. He's going to basically be doing the same thing, just summoning another throwaway unit of zombies. Also could be wrong if it happened on the first turn or the second. Don't really have a photo to confirm it, but my Vampire casts a Gaze and a Gash magic missile. I think we get like 1 Saurus from it or something. Really underwhelming. You can also see with this photo when both sides are really committing towards moving up and engaging how fast it's going to happen. Which again why in hindsight I just feel like I should have used this first turn and the following second turn to be a little bit more reserved and build up my numbers before I met him in these engagements so quickly. For the Lizardman turn, he pretty much, like I said, just sprinted with everything as fast as possible. I believe the skirmishers can sprint and shoot. They still get the -1 to hit, so he did a couple of shots on my guys. It resulted in a somewhat underwhelming 1 zombie death, I believe. We'll get a photo of my dead pile pretty soon, but really not too much action on the first turn. Me just summoning a couple of units, getting as close as possible, and him doing the same thing. You can see, too, on the other side of the chapel where my stall block of huge zombies are. It's already looking pretty grim. I also got the number wrong. He had 2 15 blocks of Saurus, not a 20, so apologies on that. Also, the Necromancer will summon the throwaway unit of zombies on this side during the second turn, not the first. The Skinks take a nice little defensive position on this hill, protecting the flanks of his big units of Saurus moving up. Not quite sure what his plan was for this. Maybe just a contingency thing in case I summon any flanking zombie units, or try to have that unit break away to the right side of the board or something. But my Necromancer definitely does not like what he's looking at on this side, and he is just thinking, how many undead bodies can I conjure up during the next turn here to slow down this Lizardman advance? Ah, yes, and there's our dead pile. 1 headless zombie that was killed by poisonous blow darts. And yes, there we go. The Necromancer has conjured forth his magics and presented the Lizardmen with a mighty 7 zombies to slow down their advance. Oh, sorry to skip to the magic phase, but actually at the start of the turn, the most important stuff happened. My Black Knights declared a charge on his Skink skirmishers that were in front of his Saurus block on my left side. He fled almost completely off the board. That was great, but what I decided to do was redirect into the Stegodon, resulted in a failed charge. Also, I failed every other charge this turn. Yes, that's right, both my Ghoul unit, my Zombie unit, and the Black Knight all decided to charge this turn, and failed their charges by about an inch or 2. Quite a devastating turn for the undead, and a bunch of prime targets for the Lizardmen. So during his turn, he decides, why not? Has the ancient Stegodon, normal Stegodon, charge into my Black Knights. Pretty sure he kills 2 of them with the impact hits, maybe 1 with his attacks. I do get lucky and get 1 wound in. I think he just failed his armor save. But yeah, after combat res, crumble, all the damage and stuff has been dealt, we're left with 2 Black Knights. His little 10-man, now 9-man Lizardman block over here is going to charge my freshly summoned undead unit and will quickly dispatch them, and then proceed to overrun into the ghouls, which actually isn't the worst thing. The Graveguard and the Vampire is right next to this unit, so it actually will be a favorable combat when it comes to my turn. And then you can see here from the dead pile, unfortunately, both of my newly summoned zombie units were quickly defeated by overwhelming amounts of Saurus infantry, and as I already mentioned as well, the Black Knights crumbled to the Stegodon's mighty hooves and horn. And with no support left, the 20-man zombie block is just staring at overwhelming odds on the other end. Probably not thinking about too much because they're zombies, luckily. We do have a bit of good fortune, though, on the other side. The ghouls managed to hold strong against the Lizardmen. I believe we only lose about 2 or so from the combat resolution, and my vampire count is close enough that they hold from a leadership test, meaning that unit is just prime setup for the vampire and her graveguards to charge in on the flank. And yep, there you go. Is going to most likely be a good combat for the vampire counts. You can also see my zombies got a successful charge after their first failed charge on the skinks. Just a couple of photos to set the scene a little bit for what's going on at this stage. The vampire counts are definitely down a little bit. My dead pile is probably about twice his size. But it is our turn, and with that charge going off on the Saurus, the skinks, and, you know, the other side just being some throwaway zombie units, I don't think it's really the end of the world here. Additionally, he does have these skinks. They are right on the brink of going off the board here. I think they do rally at the final moment, luckily. It's during the magic phase, though, that 2 key things happen. The first one, I add a couple of zombies to the skink unit here, and then the second one is we raise back a couple of the dead Black Knights. Only about 2 of them, which really doesn't seem like much. However, when those Black Knights manage to both roll double 6s and get a killing blow effect on the Stegodon, which also apparently whiffed its attacks, and the Stegodon doesn't have any kind of ward save, all of a sudden it's got to make a leadership test, which it failed. And then, by some miracle, proceeded to get run down by those Black Knights. What a twist. And then something was just telling me that these skinks were going to rally. My Banshee really didn't have any other targets at the time, so I figured, why not? Let's just let loose a scream into these skinks. They got the lowest leadership out of all these Lizardmen. And yep, we pluck off 5 of them. Their heads just explode from the Banshee's scream. And then this ended up being a little bit more of a tenser combat than I expected. The zombies only managed to do about 4 wounds, but the Lizardmen skinks deal 5. However, we charged and resulted in a tied combat, which means we're going to be going another round against each other. The 9 Saurus that were in combat with the ghouls and got charged by the vampire and graveguard were completely devoured in the matter of 1 turn. It was glorious. And yeah, now I'm looking at my dead pile, looking at my opponents, and, you know, after you summon back a couple of the undead after they've fallen, it's kind of looking like we really do have a competitive game here. It's crazy how much it's swaying back and forth. And, you know, one of the skinks just happened to turn into a zombie. I'll take it! And you can tell I took this shot right before the Stegodon met its tragic end, but yeah, when you're looking at it with that out of the picture here, it really is a competitive game, and it's really funny how I've advanced up this left side of the battlefield and pretty much cleared it out, and he's advanced up the right side and cleared it out. And I think we're about to basically swap board sides and then meet for a big engagement. And now that it is the Lizardman turn, those zombies could only stall the right side for so long, and they are going to meet their doom with a triple charge of two 15-man Saurus blocks and a 10-man skink block coming in on the side. So that will be their end, and it will be a swift one. However, the zombies on the other side of the board managed to fare much better. After tying up against the skinks for one round, the zombie leader with the chainsaw naturally manages to kill a couple of the skinks, tip it in our favor, and we chase down and kill the remainder of them, including another 10-man unit of skinks. And then when we go back to my turn, the ghouls are basically going to just spin around, get ready for the Lizardman charge that's coming in from that side of the board. We're going to summon another unit or two of zombies to help stall it up as much as possible, and basically just try to get the Grave Guard and the Black Knights repositioned and ready to fight that force after the chaff units are defeated. And as you can see, when it goes to his turn, he charges right in, and I don't think they will fare well against the imminent Saurus blocks. They might last one round against the skinks, but it's only a matter of time before the unit is surely deleted. And then one thing you can see here from the photo, unfortunately I didn't get a photo of it before he ended up in the Graveguard. My Necromancer was a little bit careless with his movement. I wasn't paying enough attention. He left himself vulnerable to just barely getting within range of some skinks, took a couple of poison darts, and fell. But again, looking at it at this stage in the battle, he's down the Stegodon, about 30 skinks and 10 Saurus. I really do think this is still a competitive game. He's basically got 2 units left, but half a unit of skinks and then 1 veteran, which does have some good equipment, I will say. But, you know, I really think we do have a shot here. So what we're going to do is basically spin our units around. I got my 2 hard-hitting units still alive, the Vampire, the Graveguard, and the Black Knights. Get the Banshee in position as well on the left flank there. Try to summon up as much stuff as I can to stall them. And we're going to have to just go all in one big charge and hope for the best. There's not enough time to stall out the clock here. So we have to fight at least 1 round of this combat, maybe 2. I summon a big unit of zombies during my turn, right in front of his Saurus, and to be honest with you, we've got pretty much the perfect setup here. As long as the dice are in our favor, I really think the Vampire Counts might have this in the bag. However, there's a problem, and you could even say I created this problem for myself. When he charges that zombie unit and then proceeds to overrun, because naturally he's going to kill it in 1 turn, he is going to be in an interesting position afterwards. In such a spot that I will not be able to get all of my units charging his non-hero block of Saurus. I am going to have to focus as much as I can on the hero block. And I really don't want to do this because I do not have a combat vampire. I have a casting vampire, and he is a combat hero. And I just have a very sneaky suspicion that he is going to focus down my vampire during this fight. But you know what? Despite all that, we do have the 2 hard-hitting units. The Graveguard are still intact. The Black Knights are still intact. We have a vampire. Even some zombies coming in on the flank. I figure, screw it. I'm going for it. Everyone charges in. We kill about 5, I believe, Saurus from the charge. Not the greatest in the world, but also not too terrible. He, in retaliation, does about 4 or 5 wounds to the zombies, and then in combination, I think 2 of those wounds go to the Graveguard. It's not a bad combat for me. However, he passes his leadership test. I don't think it was insane courage, but it was pretty damn low. And that is not good, because now his other Saurus block is going to charge in, and I think that is going to sway the combat a little bit more heavily in his favor. So, he does exactly that. He gets both Saurus into combat with me, and now the combat is looking dangerously close. His Saurus attacked my vampire during the prior turn. I think he did about 1 wound. I couldn't afford to have my vampire attack his character. I needed as much damage done to the unit as possible to help for the combat res. During the following turn, I realized with the higher initiative, I really have to kill this Saurus, or else I'm going to die, and then proceed to have the entire army crumble around me. Now, being a Neck Arch Vampire, we're not exactly the most gifted in melee, but I do believe she had the +1 attack sword, and it was just enough to make me feel like this could happen. And I roll the dice, and sure enough, every attack hits. every attack wounds. And I am sitting there almost jaw dropped. I am thinking, wow, I might have this game in the bag. And then the Lizardman proceeds to pass every single one of his saves with a quadruple sixes. He didn't even need the ward save. And that sealed the fate of the game. The Sarsgaard veteran, in return, pierces the heart of the vampire with his obsidian blade. She falls, and the army soon crumbles afterwards. A Lizardman victory. So kind of the nice part is when you have a game like this and your army begins to crumble and the generals fall, and really no need to calculate victory points at the very end. Clearly the Lizardmen have taken it, but again, I really maintained that up until that last combat there, and even then, if I killed that Sarsgaard veteran, I really do think this 6th edition Vampire Count force could have actually won this battle. And you know, as much as I might get upset about him getting really lucky on those armor saves, I got super lucky on the killing blows earlier on. You know, granted, I didn't really have the best charges this game. I think my opponent had pretty smooth charges across the board, but you know, Warhammer is always a game of give and take when it comes to the dice. And I don't think that they were too cruel to me. And yeah, he just, you know, got a little bit lucky at the very end there. I don't even really know, to be honest with you, if killing that Scar veteran would have given me the game. He still had so many SARS warriors, and those are hefty amounts of points, and he probably would have killed like another 5 for Graveguard on his own without the Scar veteran, Black Knight or 2 as well, some zombies. I think the points would have been pretty damn close with or without the vampire. So just to give some closing thoughts about this game, mostly from the undead vampire count side on things I could have done better. I needed to be a little bit more reserved with my force. I should have built up my numbers before I went in there and engaged. Second, I was a little bit careless in the later stages of the game with my Necromancer. Lone characters like that, especially with no ward save when they're not attached to a unit, you really have to be careful about them being sniped off. And you know, I talked to my opponent afterwards about it. I could have moved him in an area that would have kept him safe, but again, that's my fault, and I wasn't thinking about him making that play. So, you know, you got to be on the watch for things like that, where you're not going to put your character in a little safety bunker. And then lastly, this is something I didn't really talk about during the battle report, but it's more something I had to get used to playing 6th edition. When you cast your Raise Dead, Nagash, don't have the spell right in front of me type thing, it has 3 levels. It has like a level 1, a level 2, and a level 3. I was very careless during the game with declaring I'm doing level 3 or level 2, etc. And maybe part of that was just me not paying attention. Maybe the other part was me being a little bit too reserved about it as well. Always thinking that it was just safer to do the number 2, even though I've got a powerful wizard. So I think gambling on that a little bit more and trying to increase my numbers, because I did use that spell quite a bit during this game, and that could have been enough. My opponent played the game pretty well, to be honest with you. I think the only thing I would say maybe to consider is getting a little bit more mileage on the skinks. I think a couple of times they just got a little bit too close for comfort, especially on that flank that I had all my hard hitters on. I think if he played them a little bit further back instead of moving forward, they would have been able to stay alive for those later stages. When you were watching that other battle report with the ogres versus the lizardmen, he got much better mileage out of his skinks in that game. This game, they did not do much at all. It was really all about the SARS infantry in this one. And yeah, there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for watching another one of my battle reports. I really hope you all enjoy these. They take quite a bit of time to make, and I planning on doing more. So stick around, check them out. Thanks.